So we met with Suzy Reading, who's the psychologist and author. She's the person who talks about self-care and how to be selfish with self-care. But when I listened back to the episode, I was thinking, like, there was so many bits in it that are really important. Things like she talked about your emotions and how your emotions are telling you something, like actually talking to you. And then when you don't listen to them, that's when they can be detrimental to your soul. Like they'll start to come out in different ways, like difficult ways. And then we discuss things like the importance of self care and how people in society often think of it as like a selfish thing. And a book is actually called How to Be Selfish for that reason. So it's really interesting, I think, like the self care element of it, because then you learn like all about what self-care is, what it means, the value of it, that kind of thing within the episode. She also talks about like your thoughts and where your thoughts come from, and we kind of touch on a little bit of manifestation and how that can be really like dangerous, she actually calls it, and detrimental to your soul. So it's really interesting because, you know, there's elements of it where gratitude, manifestation are important, and affirmations and, you know, looking for goodness. But then there's this other element of it that you'll find out within the episode, which was really, really interesting. And then we did some exercises as well within it. So like you can follow along, like there's a water exercise. You just need a cup of water. And then there's other things where you can literally just put your hand on your face and certain breathing and things like that. So you're going to get so much from it. So yeah, I'm really excited for you to listen to the episode. So let's begin. Um, I have read and researched so much about yourself, and obviously self-care is a really big factor in your everyday life and your coaching. And so could you give us an understanding of what that means to you? What does self-care mean to you?
Sure. I think that's a really important starting point. Okay. I would phrase self care as this is how we take care of our health. Self care is health care, it's a meeting of our needs. Um, yeah. And I think that sort of can make sense of why it might mean one thing to one person and another thing to somebody else. But also, the self-care that you need today might be totally different to the kind of nourishment that you need tomorrow because it's responding to our human needs.
Right. Okay. So in terms of then, if you were going to start out looking at what your needs were as an individual, how do you understand that about yourself? And especially for someone who's maybe never even thought about self-care, where do you begin?
Oh gosh, do you know what? That is such a good question. We are so distracted from self, left, right, and center, aren't we? From this thing that goes off with the pinging notifications and do this for that person. We are so distracted from what it is that we need. Yeah. So I'm wondering whether we could even just can we start with a quick practice?
Yeah,
Would that
absolutely.
be all right?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
I'm
I'd love to.
curious. Do you have a glass of water with you or a cup of tea?
Yes, I have. I've got a
Uh-huh.
glass of water here.
Okay. I've got a glass of water as well. So
Okay.
let's have a little experiment here.
Okay.
Now, what I'd like you to do is can you pop a hand on your heart? Okay. And with that hand on your heart, what we're doing is we're saying, it's okay for me to check in with myself. It's all
Okay.
right for me to turn my attention inwards. It's all right to do that. It's okay to focus on self for a moment. And with that hand on heart, just take a little sip of your water and just notice how it feels.
Okay.
Did it
I
did it
help myself drink that water.
Yes! It actually changes the sensory experience of drinking. It really heightens it, right? Let's have another
Yeah,
sip because and
absolutely.
for anyone that's following along, I hope you're enjoying this. Let's take another
Yeah.
little sip.
Okay.
You notice the sensation of the glass at your lips. You notice the um temperature of what it is that you're drinking, the flavor of it, how it feels in your mouth, how it feels to swallow it. This practice is bringing us back home to self because I promise you, once you are connected with self, you will start hearing all sorts of things. And what I would encourage anyone who would like to develop a self-care practice. Anyone who wants to develop a healthier relationship with self, try this practice. So, hand on heart, have a couple of sips, but I want you to also couple it with these two prompts.
Okay.
Okay. And these two prompts are, the first one is, where am I at? What's
Where am
going
I?
on? What's happening right now? So, that's an invitation to just connect with your physical body. Just notice maybe you're a little bit cold.
What
Maybe
do you
you,
expect? Yeah.
yeah,
Is it
yeah,
cold? Is it
yeah.
feelings? Is it
So
internally? Is it in
this
the mind?
is sensations. So
Yeah.
step one is just notice what's happening for your physical body. So it might be, yeah, whether you're feeling hot, whether you're feeling cold, whether there's tension in different parts of your body. Perhaps you're feeling butterflies in your tummy. Um, Maybe your energy levels, you're feeling a bit sluggish. So just checking in with the physical body. And none of this needs to be evaluated as good or bad. It's just noticing without judgment what's happening. So that's check in with the physical body. Secondly, I'd also encourage you to just notice what kind of emotional tones are floating about here. How am I feeling? Am I feeling effervescent? Am I feeling flat? Am I feeling irritated? Am I feeling like I can't actually, I don't know how I feel. That's also okay. Yeah. And then lastly, let's also check in with what kind of thoughts are circulating right now. Where's my head at? Okay. So this invitation is to check in with ourselves, with the body, with the heart, and with the head. And based on that information, what do I need? What is
Right.
it? It could be something super simple. It might be like, I've noticed I really need the loo. I've been holding off going to the loo because I've been desperately trying to get this email done. In
Yeah.
actual fact, I need a drink of water, or I haven't spoken to another human being
Yeah.
for a few hours. I need some sunlight.
But could you have a deeper reaction? Could there be a deeper, I need connection or I
Yes,
feel,
yes,
like you say, maybe, off balance or anxious?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that these little signals will help us see the larger ones,
Okay.
right?
And
Because
what do you, yeah, sorry, go on.
no, no. Well, quite often we're waiting for someone to give us permission, or we wait for illness, injury, or conflict to go. Well, hang on, well, I need to do things differently. But when we start attending to these little whispers from the body mind instead of the shout of illness and conflict, it allows us to be more responsive.
And so that's I love that point. So I always think that you hear the whispers and you hear kind of the smaller sounds, especially when you're quiet or you're sort of focused in different areas and these little thoughts will come up. But you're
Mhm.
saying that if you do ignore self-care then that potentially that will then come up in different ways where you'll feel maybe illness comes and things like that. Is that how
Absolutely.
it goes? Really?
And this is what's led me on this journey. And I want to be totally honest with that. So, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
psychologist. I've
Yeah.
also spent a previous decade working as a personal trainer. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm really well versed with nourishing skills and practices. But what I've experienced is when I neglect myself, when I deny myself the right to take space, then that is when I am vulnerable to burnout, to overwhelm, to ruptures in relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I've learnt the hard way that if I don't nourish myself, I wind up depleted. And I think the simple mantra is there, my depletion serves no one, my nourishment serves everyone.
That's it. I love that. I think again, it's that sort of can't give from an empty cup kind of metaphor, isn't it? I think that's for me. I think that's been the premise of kind of self care, really, is as to to keep that in the forefront of my mind. That if I want to be able to be the best version of myself, then I have to make sure I maintain and take care of myself.
That's right.
And I
That's
think
right.
also, I think as a parent, I think for myself, definitely as a parent, I wanted to be a mentor to my children. So I thought, if I'm not showing them how to live, I can tell them how to live. But if I'm not then living in that way, then they're not going to, you know, look after themselves in different, in certain ways. So if
Absolutely.
you if you were having then certain emotions coming up, where do you go from there in terms of self-care? So if say it was maybe a feeling of unrest or being unsettled in some way or anxious or any other sort of
maybe say the negative sort of emotions, if they came up,
Yeah.
where do you go with that?
Okay. So I think when it comes to emotions, I think every emotion has its place. And I think we've been raised to associate some emotions as negative and some as positive. But I would suggest that even that is potentially unhelpful because sometimes, if we're experiencing anger or anxiety, which perhaps we would associate as being a negative emotion, well, sometimes we feel bad for having them. Right? Am
Yeah,
I a bad person because I'm experiencing this negative emotion? So let's call them emotions and let's understand that every emotion has an evolutionary purpose. And that's part of why I wrote How to Be Selfish to help people make sense of why we have different emotions and what their purpose are. Okay, so when it comes to the heavier, more challenging emotions like anxiety, I think it's really important that we validate the presence of anxiety. So perhaps you're noticing that there's tension in your tummy, or there's constriction in your throat, or you're noticing that your breathing is faster, or you're noticing a cascading of thoughts. Yeah, and we can say, okay, so I'm experiencing some form of anxiety here. But just because you're feeling it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a threat present. Okay, so we want to validate the experience of the anxiety, but that's when we need to say, oh, hang on. Okay, so I'm noticing these sensations or feelings or thoughts, but let me check in here. Is the threat real? Because quite often, it's something that we've imagined that hasn't actually happened yet. We can say, oh, do you know what? Yeah, that would be unpleasant, but actually that's not happening right now.
yeah,
Okay. So in How to Be Selfish, that's where I talk about the different toolkits because there's a specific toolkit for anxiety. There's another toolkit for loss. There's another toolkit for anger. Yeah. There's another toolkit for boredom because we need different things in different moments. But would it be helpful to take a look at some concrete practices that we could use to support us in these emotions? Yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
So if we're noticing the presence of anxiety, and I want to say that, modern life does really wire us for anxiety in terms of, we're invited to have coffee left, right, and center. You walk down the high street, how many coffee shops are there? Like we're so over caffeinated and we're so overstimulated.
Yeah,
So a very simple practice that can just bring us back into this moment is coming back to this hand on heart gesture. The one that we were doing, drinking water.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely,
This is
yeah, yeah,
something that I do often because one, it reminds me that, oh, hang on, I'm in this moment. So when my head is ruminating over what I said yesterday and thinking about what's happening next week, I can bring myself back to this moment, back to my body by anchoring myself. So it could be hand on heart, it could be running my hands up and down my thighs.
yeah,
It might be even just feeling my feet in my shoes and just saying, okay, so there was that thought that was taking me to that place, but actually in this moment, I'm safe and
yeah,
it's okay. I can make peace with that sensation. And perhaps with our emotions too, perhaps there might be a message. So maybe it might be helpful to look at anger.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, definitely, yeah, yeah,
Let's have a look at anger. So I think we've been raised as women to be conditioned to feel like it's not really okay for us to be angry. It's not very ladylike for us
mm,
to be angry, is it?
no,
I think men can display more anger and that they would be seen as being forthright or direct or even courageous. But for women, that would be us being bossy, dictatorial, difficult. Okay, so we've kind of there's a secondary feeling when we feel anger. Quite often, we also feel shame because we're like, oh my god, I'm having this experience and I'm not allowed to have this experience. So, let's take a look at that. But let's understand that anger is there to propel us to take action when we are threatened, someone in our care is threatened, or where our beliefs are compromised.
yeah,
If we didn't have anger, we would not have any social change. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
anger is necessary to galvanize us to take action in service of our values. So for us women, please can we reclaim the right to feel anger? Now, that doesn't give us the right to behave however we want.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we don't get to just say whatever we want, but
Yeah.
but let's also not be too quick to just soothe anger away, because if you just soothe it away, then you've lost that energetic charge that will help you stand up and give voice to what matters to you. So if ever if I'm sensing a feeling of anger, I will acknowledge I'm noticing a feeling of anger. To what extent is this helpful? To what extent is it harmful? Because sometimes we get so head up that that's when we're going to say something toxic. Okay, so in
Yeah.
that circumstance, I might just do a little. Do you know what? I've got a bit of excess energy here. I'm going to flick it off. I'm just going to. Whew, that thing that person just said to me, that doesn't belong to me. I'm going to let that leave the building. I'll do that for a moment, and then it gives me a little bit of a little moment to just gather myself. And then I might be able to give voice in a way that can be heard and understood, right? So just a little physical practice. You'll have noticed that a lot of these practices are physical. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
These are somatic practices.
Get into the physical body.
Yeah. They're all designed to soothe the nervous system, or to shift us out of the stress response and back into rest and digest, where we've got greater capacity for thinking carefully about what we say next. We can empathize more with other people. Yeah. And
It's
they
something
also
as
just,
well
they're
that I
circuit
see in
breakers, aren't
animals.
they?
Sorry, I don't I just a quick an interject on the shaking. I see that
Yeah.
with animals, I notice
Yes.
that within animals a lot, that like my dog does that, just all of a sudden there's this shake of energy, which I know that sounds a bizarre connection, but
It's a great
apparently it
connection. It
yeah, really?
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's why.
We can consciously harness that. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I've not seen, well, I've not, yeah, with the nervous system. Okay, that's really interesting that it comes back to that. So just talking about emotions there, and do you think people get into the habit of being in a certain emotion? And are all emotions relevant in that moment? Like say, I know that some people, I know even in my own family that, growing up, I can specifically remember someone in particular being angry a lot of the time. Like they were just constantly like, I don't think there was ever like a let up any time. It was like who they were. Do you think that
Uh-huh.
that would be like they're trapped in that particular thing, or would that be that they're constantly in that state of I need to change something, but they're just not addressing it?
Well, I think that's an interesting thing. I think sometimes lots of different emotions kind of get lumped under anger, but
Yeah,
actually, what that person may have experienced might have been disappointment, frustration, boredom, a lack of understanding. So I do think sometimes people can become identified with their
yeah,
feelings. Um, Sometimes that can actually be advantageous. I think some people identify with being effervescent, um, joyful people. I
yeah,
think that's really helpful. If you think
absolutely.
of yourself as I'm a happy person. Well, there is something to be said for that mindset. That changes the lens through which you see your day unfold. This is something that I've noticed. If you've been following me on Instagram, I've been doing ore hunting
Yeah, I've
for
seen
all
this.
of
I
this
love
year. And
it.
tell
Yeah,
you
yeah,
what, when you set that intention to just be open to these little moments of wonder and curiosity and human connection and the beauty in the world, well, it's no surprise that you you notice it more, right?
for
So I
those who
think,
don't
yeah,
know what that is, just could you explain that a little
sure.
bit more and how that began? Just so we understand it for those who've not seen it on
Okay.
Instagram.
So ore hunting is setting the intention to seek out moments of wonder in your day. Now, that could be anything from watching a sunrise to just noticing how long your baby's eyelashes are, or the tiny little hairs around their mouth, and just sinking in that, drinking in that real moment, savoring that moment of joy. Yeah.
I
And we
love
know from a scientific perspective that ore helps us feel connected. It helps us feel a sense of belonging. It's really profoundly beneficial for our mental health. So for someone that identifies with being, I'm a curious person, I'm open, I seek out nature's beauty, that's really helpful. But for someone who is very strongly identified with, you know, anger, well,
yeah.
yeah, you can
Or
see
maybe
how,
even, anxiety, people have
yes,
these sort of like modes of being anxious
Yes.
or moments,
Yes.
you know.
Or
So,
what they say to themselves.
mm,
I would say a lot of my clients would come to me saying, "I'm an anxious person."
yeah,
Or, some people,
that's
"You're
what I
an
mean.
angry person." Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
identify themselves.
when we
Yeah,
get fused with them, I think, yeah, it can be really problematic.
okay,
Um, how do we break free from that? Well, I think sometimes therapy is
okay,
really helpful because that can help us understand how we have become fused with our thoughts and our feelings, and actually we can step back from them, and that space can help us choose differently.
okay.
But yeah, I think for, the thing with emotions is we've talked about how culturally we've been raised to believe that for women some are okay, for men some are okay, but also conversely, it's fine for women to cry, but for men not so much, right? It's been
Yeah,
really harmful across the board. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female, it's been unhelpful being told there are only some emotions that you can express. Now, the fact is, you cannot selectively numb yourself to your feelings. So
no,
if you try and dial down um, anger, for example, you're also going to be dialing down joy,
mm,
peace. Yeah.
yeah,
They all get suppressed. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
our job here is to very gently just come back to ourselves and just see if we can connect with,
Do you
with,
think that
with,
would lead,
with
sorry,
feelings.
just to
Yeah.
interject, do you think that would lead to like a depression then? You know, like when you think about someone who has depression, they're often quite suppressed and down and the world's on their shoulders. Could that lead to that then, suppression of emotions, say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The suppression of our emotions is really damaging for our
Okay.
physical health. It has
Mm,
an impact on our digestion, on our immune health, and certainly our mental and mental health.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has a corrosive effect. And the fact is, when you understand that that feelings, emotions are cues to our human needs, you can see how if we're not allowing ourselves to listen to the messages of feelings and emotions, well, then we're out of whack with trying to meet our own humanity. These basic core needs, and they're not nice to haves. These are our human needs.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so with emotion then, is it that the emotion comes and then the thoughts come? Or should we be listening to it? Should we be feeling it? And then the emotions are coming through from there or the
So
thoughts, sorry?
so what? Okay, there is a dual feedback loop. Okay,
Okay.
a thought will pop into our head, and that will then trigger some kind of response in the body. But
Right.
equally, you might have a sensation in your tummy that you will then interpret as something. So there's a bit of both going on.
Okay. And
Okay,
what
and
about if you are then feeling something and then it's left to interpretation?
yeah,
Could we interpret it wrong?
yeah, we could do. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
you might hear a gurgle in your tummy, and you might think, that means I'm anxious. Well, okay, so let's interrogate that. It could be you're digesting. It could be there's gas. It could be I'm hungry,
Yeah.
right? There are lots of different explanations. And so that's what I would encourage people to just, okay, so what other explanations might there be? What else could this be? And I think even having a rich vocabulary to be able to describe your feelings, that can be really helpful because I think quite often we struggle with being able to label how it is that we feel. If we're
Yeah.
feeling bad, well, just feeling bad doesn't really give you many clues as to what you might need. If you were able to be a little bit more specific, if you're able to say, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling misunderstood,
Okay.
or I'm
Yeah.
feeling taken for granted, you can see how that gives more information.
Yeah.
So if people want to sort of get a broader vocab, if you Google the wheel of emotion,
Okay.
there are like 6 or 7 core feelings that all make perfect sense, like happiness, fear, anger, sadness, shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then this wheel, it fleshes them out. And there are like, I don't know how many there are. There could be up to 100 different descriptors. So
Wow.
have a look at the wheel
Yeah.
and
Okay.
look at that core emotion first. That'll make perfect sense. You'll know where you are there. But then see how it's fleshed out. And you might be surprised. Oh, this isn't just anger. This is there's something unfair going on. Ah, okay, now I know what to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah?
And then in terms of either self-care or doing something with it, if it was something that was completely out of your control, as an example, I'm not,
Yes.
whatever it is. So if something's out of your control, you can't really do anything about it.
Yes.
Is that where we bring sort of self-care in so that we're okay? Well, we can't deal with that, but it's upsetting us. So we need to have other outlets to make ourselves feel better in other ways. I don't know.
I'm
So,
so glad you've raised this.
do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
This
Okay.
is so, so important because so far, what we've been talking about is noticing our human needs and us doing what we can to meet ourselves. Okay. That is only one part of, of the puzzle. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we think about what humans need to feel safe and healthy, there are three things that we need. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to nourish ourselves. We do need to be respectful and take care of ourselves. Okay. For us to feel good about ourselves and to feel embedded in healthy relationships, we need to take care of others. Yeah. We all know it feels good to give of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would suggest that most people listening to this podcast are really good at taking care of other people. I would hope that they're also getting a bit more skilled in taking care of themselves. There's one piece of the pie that we haven't talked about yet, and that is we need to be cared for.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah. We
that's
need
like
to receive care. We need to receive love and support. Okay. So
yeah.
this check-in is us getting clear on, okay, this is where I'm at. But sometimes we can't meet our own needs. Sometimes we need another human being to say, sweetheart, I'm so sorry that happened. Of course you feel as you do. I would feel like that. Do you want a hug? Can I be here for you? Do you want me to let me do school pickup this afternoon? Let me cook dinner. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you so much for asking that question because it's such an important one.
No, I think it's just that, sometimes things feel so much out of people's control.
Yes,
And it was just kind of trying to work out where self-care, I suppose self-care comes in that element of that, because it is a way where if you're feeling out of control or you're feeling anxious or you're feeling like there's lots of difficulties in life and you're faced with them, that's going to have this impact. And
it
do you
will do.
think that's where then, yeah, so self-care can, yes, you can have other people, but if you take time out for yourself as well, and even to understand what you're going through, is that something that helps?
100%. And I
Okay.
think that's again, this is vital. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the time we think about self-care as, oh, this is something that I'm going to do. I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to have a nap, or I'm going to sit down and drink a cup of tea and just look out the window. Now that is self-care. These are practices.
Yeah.
But self-care is not just practices. Self-care is also skills like self-kindness, self-compassion, self-forgiveness. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
really important that, yeah, so we notice there is this human need. Perhaps we're noticing the presence of anxiety. Maybe we're grieving. Maybe we're feeling angry about something. So, how do we meet that human need? Can we meet it with tenderness? Can we say to ourselves, yeah, there is this thing that I'm really struggling with? Is there something that I can do that will help me support me in facing this challenge? And
Yeah.
can I go and do that? Can I give myself permission to do that? But equally, can I give voice and let the people that love and care for me know that I'm struggling with this so that
Yeah.
they can also support me? Yeah,
And that's what you need then, those three things.
do. We
Absolutely.
we don't just need that for our health. We
Yeah.
actually need that for the health of our relationships. Because if we don't let people in, if we're not honest with other people as to how we're feeling and what matters to us, how will we ever be in authentic connection? Right? Because there's this version of us interacting with that version of them. There's no real connection.
Genuine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that
yeah,
creates stronger bonds with people, would you
it
say then?
it does. When you
Mm.
think about, I mean, let's take an example. If you think about how did you feel when a friend reached out to you with something quite vulnerable? Can you think of a time when someone's done that?
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
How did it make you feel about yourself?
Gosh, happy that I was able to help them.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it
yeah,
felt good that they
yeah,
confided in me and I was able to give them some support and be there
yeah,
for them.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
And how
really,
did it make you feel about the relationship?
yeah, it was a really strong relationship. Yeah, really
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
That's
okay.
it's yeah. So this is the thing, like quite often we think to ourselves, and this is a function of being raised in a society that really prioritizes self-sufficiency and being resilient and shouldering your burden alone. We've got to a point where we sort of feel like it's not okay to
Yeah,
let people in. But actually when
yeah,
we don't let people in, they feel rejected.
yeah,
They're robbed of an opportunity to be of service and to care for us. And they're left wondering, like, why don't they trust me? What's wrong with me?
yeah.
What's wrong with our relationship?
Why
So,
didn't they tell me about that?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We need it. We need it for the health of our relationship so that we can actually connect on a real human level. And like, if we don't connect on a human level, like, what's life about? Right? We're
mm,
just skirting around on the surface of, how was your day? Let's go
yeah.
there. Let's get vulnerable. Let's take care of each other. Isn't
I
that
think that's
beautiful?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really important message for many people as well. I think in terms of like that vulnerability, that's really important. But I think as well for those people, because everybody's situation is different, you know, like some people don't let people in because they may have been in certain relationships. They may have been in, you know, narcissistic relationships as an example, and everything they've said has been used against them. And
Yes.
that can be quite a lot of that can be quite then difficult, can it, to let people in. But obviously there is so much value for
I'm
that
so
person.
glad you've gone there. That's so
Yeah.
important. I
Okay.
think for anyone where there's been a history of it not being safe for them
Yeah.
to show up authentically, now for a lot of people, they've learnt pipe down, don't be truthful, don't bring that feeling, that need to this relationship because it's either used as a weapon or you know it distracts you from keeping yourself safe
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
relationship with that person. It's not just we don't talk about it anymore. Sometimes we shut it down so we don't even notice ourselves because there isn't the capacity to meet our own human needs. We're so desperately trying to keep ourselves safe by meeting this person's needs. Now, for
Yeah.
anyone that's been in that circumstance, my heart absolutely goes out to them. And
Yeah.
this is not just a matter of, well, get brave and speak up. There might be the real need for some therapeutic unpicking to help
Yeah.
them reconnect with self, but also to help them understand who it's safe to bring more parts of ourself to relationship with. And hopefully we can identify that there are some people in our circle who have our best interests at heart, where we can offer some sort of more gentle bids of
Yeah.
honesty, vulnerability. Can we just practice with those? Even little things like, feeling safe to accept a compliment. Can we can we practice with that? Or like, when you're getting together with like friends and they say, where should we go for coffee? Instead of just going, oh, that's fine, you choose. Actually saying, do you know what? I fancy this place. How about that? Or this one? Like these are simple ways that we can start practicing a bit of self-advocacy.
That's fantastic. So self-advocacy, I've seen that you speak about this a lot. Again, can you just explain a little bit about what that means for those who don't really know or have not heard of that?
Yeah, I think this is something that we're starting to hear more about, but it definitely needs clarity. So self-advocacy is how we represent ourselves. It's how we speak up about our feelings, our needs, our preferences. So you can see how everything that we've talked about today is really in service of us connecting with self so that we can give voice and to have our needs met, to allow ourselves to receive. Yeah?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I do think that there's been a lot of times throughout history, I would say, that people haven't been able to be like, it's almost like I feel so lucky to be now, like alive here and now in this moment because of kind of all the messages and the things that you're saying, you know, to be able to be open, to be able to, you know, not just kind of get on with it, you know, that old kind of
Yep.
thinking. It
Yep.
must have had such an impact on those generations where no one's really spoke about themselves because, you know, it just wasn't really done, to be
It
honest,
wasn't done.
you know?
No, you know, I think it's really interesting to take a look at how things have changed.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that now I'm 48. I would suggest that a lot of people of my generation could look back on their childhood and say, well, that was a really normal childhood. that was a pretty happy childhood, but still come away sort of feeling like I'm not sure how comfortable I am with my needs and my feelings because they weren't always understood and met like the way that we are trying to parent now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it would be safe to say it's almost completely different in certain aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think we've still got quite a long way to go because,
Yeah.
I think we've moved on from children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
But still, I think, would you agree with this? I think we still identify a good child as one that doesn't talk back to adults. Would you
Yeah,
agree? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. For most people, I would. I know that. I mean, I've got two girls, and I'm very much about, talk, tell me how you're feeling, what did that mean to you, and things
Yeah.
like that. But I totally get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like culturally,
Yeah,
there's still
absolutely.
that sort of like, kids like, come on, get on with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Like they were so well behaved because they were quiet.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I get that.
Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing when it comes to self advocacy is our ability to give voice and to speak up on our behalf. If you haven't learnt that in childhood, how the heck are you meant to do that in adulthood?
I know.
Yeah.
Goodness, yeah. And I think that's where there is that, not a barrier, but for some, maybe that hurdle, like a little step where it's, can I actually be, it's almost like say, I mean, your book title, selfish, to be honest, it feels selfish. Why do you think it feels selfish to kind of
Oh.
care for ourselves?
Okay. So let's zoom in on some of the things that we've been told. So why are we so phobic of being seen as selfish? Okay.
Yeah.
So we know that a good child is one that doesn't talk back to adults. Let's backtrack even further. What's a good baby?
Mm.
A good baby is one that doesn't cry. Oh my God. Like the whole notion of there being a bad baby. Why are we even having this conversation? There are no bad babies.
It's
Yeah.
almost shameful for the parents having to go through those things where it's like, "Oh, my baby doesn't cry," and it's like, "Ooh, mine cries all the time." Well,
Yeah.
not all the
So
time,
what are
but
they doing
yeah,
wrong? What are we
yeah,
doing
what
wrong?
we're doing
Everyone's
wrong.
scratching their heads going,
Yeah,
what? What?
yeah,
No, that's like we're led to believe that a good human being is one that doesn't have needs, one that doesn't have emotional expressions, one that is convenient, compliant, obedient, can just get on with it, doesn't bother anyone else. I mean, how do we feel about our humanity? It doesn't feel comfortable, does it? It feels it's wrong.
yeah,
This is why when it comes to like taking care of self, we feel bad for having needs, let alone taking time out to meet them. So that's why we've got to hold all of this nonsense up to the light and see
yeah,
it for the untruth that it is. There are no bad babies. Human needs are human needs. They're not nice to have. You know, all your emotions are okay. Yeah, it's okay to turn your attention inwards and focus on self. I think it's not just selfishness that we have an aversion to. It's also that we've been reared to really value selflessness.
yeah. I understand
Yeah. And
totally.
yeah. For a lot of my life as a mum, I've been like, I want to be the selfless mum. For me, I became a mum at the same time as my father. He had a breathing failure and he was in hospital for intensive care for 4 months. And then he survived for 15 months. And I can remember at the time being, "Oh, I want to give every cell and fiber of my being to my baby, but my dad needs me and my mum needs me." And I totally ran myself ragged.
Yeah,
And that's where I came across that mantra, my depletion serves no one.
no,
I'm not going to be here anymore if I keep doing this. This is not,
yeah,
it's not serving anyone, right? That's where I learnt firsthand that selflessness is it's not going to get us anywhere. Okay? If we completely deny ourselves,
mm,
we're vulnerable to burnout, overwhelm, anxiety, depression. Yeah,
yeah,
it's.
absolutely, yeah,
I actually see when I'm trying to be selfless, I actually see that as the barrier to me being what I want to be. If I think about if I'm trying to be selfless, what actually am I trying to do? I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to be available. I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to be loving. But actually, for me to be that version, if I want to be those things, I need to move my body. I need access to sleep. I need time with friends. I need fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, if selflessness is the barrier to those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, what do you need? What to resource yourself to be that version of you that you aspire to? Screw being selfless. Like, that it just doesn't work. How can you resource yourself to be that patient, present, loving, available human being?
And it's unusual. It seems almost unusual to think that we think that's acceptable to kind of work ourselves into the ground without ever giving to ourselves. It's almost like you would never want anyone else to do that. So if you said to your
Absolutely.
child, work yourself into the ground, be there for every single person that is known to man, but never yourself. Like, we would never do that. So why do we accept that in a way? It must be.
Guess it's what we've been marinating in these messages since
Yeah.
birth.
And I
It's
think
a long
also,
time.
yeah, yeah. And there's also a lot of about things like sort of positivity, isn't there? And being grateful, and I get all of that. I understand it, and like, that can have a really great impact on
Totally.
our mental well-being.
Can.
But then there is times where you think, actually, like, what I heard from a lot of the sort of the research I've done about yourself, it's almost like what you're feeling is okay. And I think a lot of the time we feel like it's not okay to have our own feelings. We have to put that aside for the situation or what's going on. And I don't want to put, like, thoughts in your mind or your words in your mouth kind of thing. But that's what I took from a lot of
Yeah.
what your message is.
Yeah. I love that you started off by saying there is a place for gratitude.
Mm,
Being appreciative is a superpower. And that, like, coming back to ore hunting,
yeah.
yeah,
I
being
was
on the
gonna,
lookout
yeah,
for it, like,
yeah,
honestly, it does. It is life-changing.
yeah.
However, being forced to find the silver lining before you're ready to, or I don't know if you've ever experienced this. If just say, for example, you've finally got brave and got vulnerable and shared something that was
Yes.
troubling you, and
Yeah.
then someone's been in a hurry to get you back to feeling good, and they've gone, yeah, but at least oh my god. So what that does, like, in that circumstance, it it shuts you down. Like, you're certainly not going to keep talking about it,
No.
because that would mean that you're ungrateful. No one wants to be ungrateful. But also, it sort of, you feel bad for having that feeling. So it dismisses how people feels, it denies how they feel, it minimizes how they feel, and then they feel bad for even voicing it. They're still stuck in that struggle, and now they feel bad for struggling.
Yeah. No,
Great.
it's like a terrible circle to be in.
They've
Yeah.
got even more
Yeah.
burden now. So I think if
Yeah.
we can just be, can we get brave and say, yeah, I'm really sorry. That must have really hurt. I'm so sorry that happened. I would feel exactly the same. How can I support you in that? Do you want to talk more about it, or do you want a hug, or actually do you want a break? Do you want to go, we can watch something funny and you can have a break from that. That these are all different ways that we can support each other.
And even if you haven't got someone to say that, we say it to ourselves?
I'm
Like,
so
can we
glad you
just,
said that.
yeah,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
genuinely think that we've been. I think I can go back to even my daughters when they were in primary school and watching. I remember watching an assembly and seeing this excitement that they all had about these. They did, tokens through the week, and they'd have all these counters kind of thing. And I remember I used to watch all of the kids have to turn, and they all had to do it completely silently and without any excitement or anything like this. And the head teacher would always be like, "That's enough," kind of thing. And I used to always think that's such a difficult like, we're teaching children at that age, like, that their emotions are not important and they have to suppress them and hold them back. And that's just doesn't seem natural to me. So I think there's an element there of definitely this interjection from such a young age. And it's not necessarily even at home. It can even just be like that in school, where we're learning messages that are just not helpful. So I hope, like, this conversation and these kind of conversations make people really think, actually, you know, it's not acceptable not to have time for self-care, and it's not acceptable not to be okay with my emotions.
Mm,
Like, we can't be
yes.
positive all the time. I know that I've tried
Yes.
to do
There's a
it.
place for
Very good.
sadness, isn't there?
Yeah,
Sometimes, like,
yeah,
this is like where I had a light bulb moment. About my daughter's 15 now. I can remember she came home, she was in primary school, and she came home and she was beside herself because she just found out that her best friend was not just leaving the school, but was actually moving to the other side of the country. It's like, oh, okay, so
Yeah.
it's a real blow. And in that moment, as mum, I'm like, I want to take her sadness away. I want to help her feel better. And then I sort of thought, hang on, my psychologist hat fell back on. I was like, actually, no, what she's experiencing is sad. And she
Yeah.
needs me to say, sweetheart, of course you would feel sad. There's something sad that's happening. Now, if she were to be happy in that moment, that wouldn't be the healthy response. That would be odd, right? So can we just allow people to have a normal human response to sad things? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we sit with them in their sadness? Can we help them make sense of it? Can we offer them comfort? And, there is a time for sometimes, for us as adults, sometimes in the midst of a grief journey, for example, you know, work will come up and it's like, well, we need to put that down for a time because now I need to do this. There is a time for saying, okay, feelings, I'll come back to you later. For now, I need to do this.
Yeah, of course.
Right? There is a time for that. Like, I don't want people to feel like they're doing something wrong if they're not constantly paying attention to their feelings and acting on them. It is okay for us to say, I'm going to park that and come back to it later.
Yeah.
But I think that it's so important what you're talking about there with how our children have been raised to, put a lid on it. It's really not helpful. And yeah, can we let people be sad without hurrying them back to happiness, which is
Yeah, I think
not helpful,
that's
is it?
almost like the fear of people being lost in the negative or lost in depression and these kind of states. People don't want that for anyone. And also there's a lot of talk about, positivity and being grateful and being thankful and just constantly, being upbeat. But I think what I loved about sort of, researching a lot of your work was genuinely that, it's okay to just feel, it's okay to have a bit of balance, more balance, actually.
Yes.
'Cause I think I struggle sometimes when I see things like, manifestation or the law of attraction. You must be positive 100% of the time because I don't know what your thoughts are on these things, but,
Yeah, I've got some strong thoughts on that. Do you want to hear them?
I'd love to. I would
Do you know
love
what? I think there is something in it. What I've talked about with this ore hunting. The more you look for ore, the more you find it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, set the intention. If there's something that you want to cultivate in your life, make actions that allow more of that in. Yeah. However, I think it's very dangerous to tell someone that what you think is then going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's really, really unhelpful because you don't choose your thoughts.
No.
Okay. If you don't choose it, you don't have control over it. And if you don't have control over it, then stop trying to change it.
Yeah.
Okay. What's important is to acknowledge that first thought that enters your head. That is just something that your brain has generated. And I hope that people find this liberating. Now, I've been in private practice as a psychologist for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got loads of psychological tools and coping mechanisms. Yeah. Evidence-based. I still have catastrophic thoughts, unhelpful thoughts, toxic thoughts.
Mm.
But what's important is that it's our relationship with those thoughts. So when that thought comes up, I've got practiced at knowing that's just a thought. That's not who I am. That thought is not necessarily a fact. It's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily a prediction or a prophecy. It's just something that my brain generated. I get to choose what I believe in. So that thought came up. I get to choose how I respond to it. My self-talk. Now that's something we do have control over.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So don't punish yourself for that first thought and don't be frightened of that first thought. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything. What does mean something is then what you say to yourself in response. Okay. So manifesting, I think, is quite dangerous because it sets people up to sort of believe that what you think creates your reality. And oh my God, that must mean I should never have an anxious thought.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
and that what happens when we say I mustn't have that anxious thought? What happens to that thought? Does it go away?
No, it'll probably keep me back.
Even bigger and more jangly, right? It gives
Yeah.
them even more power. And then
Yeah.
we're even more frightened of them. Okay. So
Yeah.
We take what we can from that with a little grain of salt, but just all
Do
your
do you
feelings
believe
are
in
okay.
it? Do you think that affirmations are good for you then? You know, like
I
if
do.
you affirm certain, you know, like lovely
Yes.
positive affirmations about
Yes.
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of affirmations. Affirmations, essentially, these are ways that you can bring your values and any quality that you want to bring into your life and really remind yourself of its importance. So I use mantras all the time. Um, I give myself permission to learn and grow. That's what I would say to myself after I've made a boo boo instead of, you
uh,
idiot, right?
yeah,
I'll say,
yeah.
whoopo, what can I learn here? You know, you mentioned earlier about how do we get comfortable with feeling all of our feelings. I will do this little gesture, try it. Rub your hands together, create some warmth, and then tenderly cradle your chin in your hands. And I want you to use the affirmation, it's okay to feel as I do.
It's okay to feel as I do.
I give myself permission to feel.
I give myself permission to feel.
All my feelings are okay.
All my feelings are okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice.
love
Yeah,
it. Love these. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, you know, everybody can take something from little bits here and there, but just going to the thoughts, oh goodness. I think for me, the thing that helped me the most with thought was meditation and being able to separate from my thoughts. I think
yes.
for a long, long time of my life, I was completely absorbed in my thoughts. I thought my thoughts were me and that I was, you know, any thought I had, you know, like you say, you can still have a toxic thought. And all of a sudden you think, oh, I'm a bad person. And I think even just hearing that for the audience, just to hear that actually, you know, your thoughts, they come from all sorts of things and it's just
Yep,
generated by your brain. And
yep.
it's not who you are or your beliefs. And that, yeah, you can have your own core values, like using your affirmations and gosh, there's so many things. I could ask you a million things.
Oh, do
Just-
you know what? You have explained that really beautifully.
So is there five think tips for self-care that you could suggest to someone?
Very easily. Yes. Okay. So, 5 things that we can do to resource ourselves. Number 1, we can work with our breathing. Doesn't cost a penny, doesn't take any extra time because you're doing it anyway. But how we breathe has a really significant impact on how we feel. Okay. So, even just becoming aware of you breathing and just, yeah, one long, smooth exhale. And if you need a practice to sort of make it more salient, then maybe candle breath, where you breathe in through the nose and then you breathe out through pursed lips. It looks and sounds like this. And that can help us feel better. Nice little circuit breaker.
Love that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay. So work with the breath. That's number 1. Number 2, how we hold our body, science shows, has a really tangible impact on how we feel in terms of energy levels. So, specifically, research shows that if we come into this position, like the
Mm,
iPhone slump,
yeah.
think round spine, downcast gaze, it lowers your mood, it lowers your energy levels. It's easier to recall negative memories in that shape, and it's easier to make someone cry when they're in that position. Okay. So, if we want to just feel a little bit more pitched up, poised, ready to go, let's try the chicken wing shoulder roll. So if you pop your fingertips on your shoulders to form your chicken wing, as you breathe in, lift your elbows up. And as you breathe out, take your elbows back and down. Okay. So we're using a little bit of movement here. Now we know that movement has a potent antidepressant effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also it lifts you into that tall upright posture that helps you feel a little bit more optimistic. Okay. So posture is really important. Um, Also, that also gives us number 3, which is movement. Okay. Movement is so powerful in terms of boosting our mood, helping
Yeah.
us feel, better decision-making clarity. Yeah. So number 1, breath. Number 2, use your posture. Number 3, movement. Now, it doesn't have to be just going to the gym. That chicken wing shoulder roll
Yeah.
counts as movement. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Equally, just going for a walk around the block or just, taking a chest stretch. Number 4, can we use touch? So do you know what? This is a really useful summary because quite a few of the practices that we've done already today use touch. So this hand on heart gesture,
Yeah.
touch. This is grounding. We talked about running hands across thighs. We did this cradling chin in hands.
I love this.
Touch is really soothing for our nervous system. Touch is how we give ourselves comfort. So please, can everyone invest in touch?
Yeah, even a hug.
Yes, give yourself a hug.
Yeah.
Ask for a hug. Receive a hug. Sit with the cat on your lap. Yeah, touch is really, really important for us to help us feel safe. And then number 5, all the kind words. So please, can we speak to ourselves with dignity and respect? None of this, you idiot, you this, you that. Research shows that if we refer to ourselves as you or I, it naturally creates more punitive inner dialogue. If
Okay.
we call ourselves by a pet name, research shows we're more coaxing and kind and encouraging with ourselves. Okay?
I love that.
So I'm gonna share my pet name.
Okay.
I call myself Bunny. Like, who could be mean to Bunny?
Oh my goodness.
Right.
I
So
love
if
that.
anyone needs to borrow that, they can borrow
Yeah.
that. But what will your pet name be?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have pet names with my girls. I say all sorts. We
There
have
you go.
loads. We're like little boo boo chicken, and we're like pumpkin, or we just extend it to little pumpkin spice. We say all sorts. We're all So they've
So
got
you
like
need one for you.
I need one for me. I will have a real good think about that. I'm gonna I don't know. I can't think of one at the
Have
moment.
fun pondering.
I will.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of little squirrel names then. I was like, it's so cute. So I have no idea.
There you go.
There's the vulnerability right there. I love it. Just open up. Oh, well, thank you so much.
You're
Thanks
so
for that.
welcome.
I
Yeah.
just think, I just felt like that would just add that little bit of extra.
Yeah, and it's a really nice summary as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a really good idea. Well done.
I just thought, because, we talked so much about self-care, and I thought there's going to be people who'll be like, oh, I can't do it. And there's, well, what exactly? And so
So we've
I
got
always
5
think of
things.
the negative.
Yep. Breathing, posture,
That's-
movement, touch, kind words. Yes.
Absolutely,
No one can say I haven't got time for those things, right?
Yeah,
all of those things,
I was
they're all
conscious of
doable.
your time, and I know that we had
That's
the hour.
wonderful.
And sometimes it's hard
I'm
to.
so glad you asked.
So I think what I'll do is I'll just finish with my final 3, if that's okay.
Okay.
These are just final questions that I generally ask at the end, and they're just they can be a one-word answer if you'd like to. Oh no, sorry. It could be a one-word answer. It could be a sentence. Just whatever comes to mind, really. So I'll start. So
Okay.
what do you believe the secret to happiness is?
Oh, I would say the secret to happiness is taking care of self, being loving and generous in our care of others, and also receiving love and support from other people.
Oh, I love that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. These are just maybe slightly off topic, but what do you think this secret to success is?
Oh, I love that question. I would suggest the secret to success is having clarity on what matters to you so you can really fire that arrow of intent, but also being resourced. So what do you need to bring that thing into fruition in your life? Yeah. And we've talked
Self-care.
about loads of, self-care, but also, love and support of other people. Yeah. We like, people need people. It's okay to need help along the way.
Could talk to you even just about community. You just think, oh, there's so much. I'm
Yeah.
going to digress. Finally, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Goodness, that's so big.
I know.
The
It's huge.
meaning of
No one knows
life.
the answers, but it's just nice to get everyone's
It's nice
thoughts.
to ponder.
Mm.
It's I think it's just trying to leave a legacy that you're proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I finish quotes. I know quotes are you're big on quotes as well. I see your lovely Instagram page, and Jolly is all about quotes. Quotes have helped me so much. Normally, I'd ask you to pick them from the jar, but we're separate. We're not in the same space, so I'm just going to randomly pick one for you and give you a quote at the end. The answer to your difficulties can be found deep in your soul. That was yours. There we are.
And here it is. I'm connecting with it.
I
I'm
love it when we
connecting.
get something that connects.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for such an insightful conversation. I've absolutely loved speaking with you. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much. It's
No,
a gorgeous exchange.
I know.
Yeah? An
Lovely. It's
exchange.
so much-
That's what this is about. It's
I loved
beautiful.
it. Genuinely.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Right. Take care.